What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates and entertains, as always, brought to you by the Up On Game Presents Network. Make sure you guys are subscribing to Up On Game on Spotify, on Apple Music, on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. LeVar Arrington and company do a great job on our parent network. But you know who also does a great job? My guys, Jake Galley and Stat Matt Robinson. Before we get started, we was just talking about it off camera. Y'all listeners, viewers on YouTube, everyone got to give Stat Matt a little appreciation because the brother is on vacation and told his family, "Hey, I can't go to the water park tonight. Like, hey, I can't go see the stars tonight. I got a pod to make." So, Matt, we appreciate you for keeping that dedication up, man.
No problem. I made sure that, like, I don't want to sound that selfless. Like, I made sure I got my relaxing time, and I scheduled my time so I wasn't missing a lot of relaxing time.
No, Matt, you put your family's needs got put on the back burner for our podcast needs, and I'm okay with that.
In a lot of ways, he is like Baker Mayfield, had to fly home from vacation to get his physical done. Matt, he has to fly home from the outside of wherever he is. We won't divulge that to the listeners, and do the podcast. I mean, he's a warrior.
He's a warrior. You know who used to be a warrior? Great segue by me. Great segue by me. Mr. Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant also finds himself in the middle of Jake. We might got to put that one up top, man. That's
a good one.
That's just so well done. But Kevin Durant, along with his teammate Kyrie Irving, finds himself in the middle of, once again, the talks of free agency come summertime. And Jake and Matt, for all our Straight Facts listeners, you guys know that Jake and Matt were just on YouTube kind of breaking down that situation. And it hasn't changed from Sunday to now. And if anything, we've got some new kind of utterings, some new details about this possible trade, this possible move for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving that we got to break it down and discuss, man. It's the offseason. So we're getting to them big narratives. So just to start off the top with this KD and Kyrie situation, we'll start on the KD side of things right now. It was reported that my Phoenix Suns offered or put on the table for them DeAndre Ayton, Cameron Payne, I believe one older role player, I think Cam Johnson off the top of my head, and 4 first-round picks. And the Brooklyn Nets said, no, not enough. No deal. So, since the Nets are living in this fantasy land of they're going to get your big 3 and then your next picks for the next 5 years, who do you see Kevin Durant going to? What do you think the market will end up becoming for Kevin Durant?
Yeah, I don't think it's so much that the offer was like super far off. You just can't say yes to that's negotiating 101. Never say yes to the first offer.
If the first offer is the best offer you're going to get, say yes.
But when you are holding the cards, I should say, don't jump at the first offer. But I think a lot of it goes to really deciding what they want. And this is what Matt and I talked about. Like, Joe Tsai, apparently the owner, does not want to go into a rebuild. He does not want to strip it down, go the youth way, because they don't have their own pick. So even if you stink, you're not going to be able to capitalize on the stinkiness. So I think bringing in guys like Ayton, Mikal Bridges, or just overall young and good players who they can build around is going to be what they're focused on. To me, though, and we can open this up to some other teams and who you guys think, but to me, there's really 2, but really only one narrative-wise that I think he can go to, and it's a jersey that he's already donned before. The Oklahoma City Thunder notoriously have more picks than anyone in the history of picks ever existing in any sport. They have more picks. So when you look at the pick package alone that they could offer, and then also the young players who were signed on for multiple years, you know, Pokachevsky's a guy who might come up. Josh Giddey is a guy. I doubt
Shea.
I doubt. See, that's the thing. If I'm moving Shea, I'm not including a ton of picks. Maybe some picks, but you're not getting much more. Like Shea for KD. KD's going to give me 5 more good years, solid years. Fingers crossed. Hopefully Shea will give you 10 to 12, maybe 10 to 11.
That stock just rose from one summer league game. Maybe gets rid of a couple picks.
I think people who are down on Chet were a little foolish. But Chet's another name that, like, again, maybe you don't add more on top of it. But if I am Joe Tsai and if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, I'm licking my chops at the war chest of both players and picks that OKC has.
And I actually like the OKC thing. One, Kevin Durant's familiar with the town, he's familiar with the city, and he's hinted at OKC before, like, hey, I'm not shutting the door on coming back. Y'all treated me so well. I loved building up that franchise. Like, you guys will always be home. He said that before. So I don't think like he's got to add a team to his wish list for them to be traded there, for him to be traded there. But I don't think I see him being able to add OKC. The only pushback I have to it is they only check 2 of the 3 boxes. And right now, Sean Marks need 3 boxes checked. Future picks, young players, and a star right now. And if you're not willing to give up Shea, who's right on the cusp of that, but still doesn't really check that box all the way. If you're not willing to give up Shea, you don't have that star for me. And if the Thunder want to do business, I think the first thing that the Nets ask for is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and then we can go on past that. But if they're not willing to give up Shea, then I think they move on from OKC too. And maybe I'm saying this because I just want them to end up spinning the block back to Phoenix, but that's just I see.
I think people are underrating how much leverage Josiah has in this situation because Durant's under contract for 4 more years.
It's true. That's a big one.
So it's like everyone in basketball media, including us, want a trade to happen as soon as possible because it's interesting content. But if you're Josiah, you can just wait until maybe another star gets disgruntled and wants it out of a different. Maybe Jimmy Butler wants out of Miami or whatever. I'm just making stuff up, but just like that kind of thing. And like Morey did that with Ben Simmons, where he waited half a year until the Harden thing happened instead of trading him for peanuts. So if Sai's smart, if you just look at how Morey handled the Ben Simmons situation last year, where he was patient and waited for a trade that fit for the Sixers, Sai can do the same thing for the Nets. He doesn't have to just jump at the most like juicy opportunity that he sees tomorrow. He can sit and wait for what he wants for his team.
And that's actually really interesting you bring that up, because that's actually not something I've thought of until you said it, that Daryl Morey handled his situation almost the exact same way that Josiah is handling his. But Josiah has a more valuable asset in Kevin Durant than he does Ben Simmons on an expiring deal. So like he does have the liberty of, I won't say he has the liberty. That's the wrong way of putting it. He has the option of waiting because stars inevitably will get disgruntled. And as long as Donovan Mitchell is still in Utah and Damian Lillard is still in Portland, and these stars that have known to be at the end of like their patience, as long as they're still there, there's always an option that star gets disgruntled and that player just wants to do, or that team just wants to do a one-on-one trade because they got to get rid of it now. But that's a risk. Like that's not a guaranteed, because Portland could make a move that makes Damian Lillard say like, okay, I'll stay. Utah traded away Rudy Gobert, which may make Donovan Mitchell say like, okay, I like the direction of this team better, I'll stay. Because from where I sit, I kind of think that Kevin Durant loses value the closer and closer you get to the season. You have the ability for a star to get disgruntled when the season starts, but if that doesn't happen, and I think it's more likely that doesn't happen than it does, if it doesn't happen, now every team in the league knows that you have one of the best players who publicly doesn't want to play for you anymore. And now you're desperate because now you're about to go into the season with an asset who don't want to play for you right now. So I think if that's a gamble that they take. Are you willing to take that risk, or do you take the offers that have been on the good offers that have been on the table and get something for Kevin Durant? Because Jake, you hit it at the very top. If Sean Marks plays his cards right between Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, the Nets are in the playoffs next year. Like if he trades right, they get a good team back.
Well, and I wonder, and this is kind of why I think they're in a really good position. Like you can play the long game. I think you can play the long game with Kevin Durant because of obviously the contract situation, but also there's the possibility that if you were able to flip Kyrie Irving, like let's say, okay, we're about at the season, everyone at this point is locked into what their team is going to be, and they're not going to trade for Kevin Durant. Okay, but a guy who's less valuable, at least in the eyes of opposing teams, is Kyrie Irving, and also probably the reason why Kevin Durant is somewhat unhappy with how the Nets have gone. So if you can flip Kyrie for something that is going to be, usable and something that you can build your team into, maybe it can't be as good as your triple-headed monster that you had with Harden, Kyrie, and KD, but maybe it can be just as good in the fact that they are always going to play, give 100% effort, and now you have something that KD wants to buy into. He is the most fickle star in the NBA. So I don't put it beyond KD, like, I want out of here. Oh, we go make a run to the finals because you retooled and Ben Simmons works out and we have a good team? All right, guys, you know what? Maybe this isn't so bad. I don't put that past him.
Now, let me pose this scenario to y'all. Say Sean Marks just decides to hold his hand. I'm not going to make any impulsive decisions in the summer. These two are under contract for at least a season. If they go to the regular season without trading these two, do you think there's a chance that KD and Kyrie kind of just suck it up and say, hey, man, why don't we just make one last run at this thing then? If we weren't traded and we're here while the season starts, do you think they kind of rescind it or they're willing to play through it? Or do you think they sit when the season starts?
I will never predict what Kyrie Irving will or will not do for the rest of my life. But I think KD loves playing basketball. He missed the whole season because of an Achilles. He's not going to sit out. He knows his age is going up there. He's going to play if he's on the roster for game 1 for the Nets this year. He'll make it known in the media that he wants to leave, I'm sure, but he'll still play just because he loves basketball.
And what's crazy, I agree with you, 100% agree with you. He loves basketball as much as anybody in the league does. And what's a double-edged sword for KD is if he goes out there, he doesn't know how to not be KD. Even if he's saying after every game, well, I don't want to be here. Well, Kevin, how do you not want to be here if you just had 35 and 17? Like that don't look like you don't want to be here. That looks like you're very happy here. That looks like you want to win a championship here. And I'm not sure what that does for him because at one point that makes every other team in the league be like, man, he's hooping and he doesn't want to be there. Let's just go get him. But it also lets the Nets go like, man, if you're here winning games for us, like I'm in no rush to trade you. You under contract, big buddy. Like you still ours.
So I think before we move on, I just want to give another possible destination because we mentioned OKC as one place that may have the assets to do it. I think really the only other place, if you hold Joe Tsai to his word and he wants a young player, a star, and a bunch of picks, and he wants it to be the biggest in NBA history, really the only other team that could make that happen is the New Orleans Pelicans. And they have all the picks from the Anthony Davis trade. The Lakers picks in like 4 or 5 years from now are going to be the number one over. Like when LeBron and Russell Westbrook retire.
And AD, right, when they all leave. Yeah.
And when AD's old or gone, those picks are going to be valuable. So I think they probably have some pretty good value in the picks. And then when you look at the players, like if I'm trying to replace KD on the wing, I would love to slide Brandon Ingram in there as my star.
It's KD Jr.
Right, exactly. He's a little KD. And then you also have a really wide cachet of young players who can do a lot of things. You talk about New Orleans, they had a little bit of success towards the end of the year. They weren't a great team, but once they added CJ McCollum back, they got a lot better. So Herb Jones would be a guy who I throw out there. So let's say right now, I'm going to give you 2 deals, one from OKC, one from New Orleans. New Orleans offers, let's just say they both teams offer 5 picks, 5 first rounders, let's just say. And the 2 players added are Herb Jones and Brandon Ingram from the Pelicans. And then OKC adds in Shea and Pokachevsky, let's just say. Poku. Who are you taking?
New Orleans.
Wow, not even close.
Not even a question. Well, the gap
if I'm the Nets and I'm trading KD to OKC,
get his prototype.
I need Chet Holmgren.
Wow, you're drawing a hard line.
If you're giving me Shea, I might digress at Chet Holmgren. Not as tall, but the star. He's proven in the league. Chet's played 1 summer league game. He's great, ton of upside, but Shea's proven in the league. I'm giving up proven and I'm getting proven. But if I'm giving up KD and I look at those two offers, Brandon Ingram is the archetype of KD. That is KD Jr. That is even the demeanor. They even got the same cool kind of I just want to hoop kind of demeanor. So I like that, and I think Herb Jones is
Brandon
I love
Ingram,
Herb
really
Jones.
good player. Really happy that he's improved. He's steady improvement his whole career. He's not in this. I think it's unfair to Durant to compare him to Durant because
Here we go. Here
Durant
we
was
go.
like
Here we go.
was the league leading scorer when he was like 20 years old,
Here
and
we go. I always get in these. Maybe
Ingram's
it's
just a
right.
really good. He's now an all-star, like lower level all-star after his 5th year in the league. Like great job, but like I don't think that's comparable.
Here go Matt nitpicking on my argument again because he right because and maybe it's how I word these things. I got in a similar type of debate the other week. Play type, similar play styles. I'm not how good it is, but how they play the game. They both like to get to their spot on the floor.
Yeah,
archetype, not same level of player because we're talking about a top 3 player in the world, but same archetype. Right. Love to operate in the mid range. Can play 1 through 4. Guard 1 through 4, 1 through 5 at times, like long, lanky, combo guard. Like, yeah, same archetype of player. And I think Brandon Ingram is at a higher level right now than Shea is. So if I want the best player back, like the best player I'm getting in that package is Brandon Ingram, and Herb Jones is a great complementary piece on any team.
Can play.
That's a guy who's going to go do the dirty work for you. Yeah. Loves to live on defense. And if I look around the Nets team, defense isn't always emphasized at the Brooklyn Nets. So get a guy who just loves doing it on his own. I got Ben.
For me, if I'm the Nets, I completely blow it up at this point. And when you blow it up, you have no picks. You trade for picks and super young talent. And Brandon Ingram, to me, I'm changing my mind. Well, based on what Jake suggested, I still say go with the New Orleans pick. But I still think Oklahoma City is a more enticing object because Chet Holmgren was drafted 2nd overall. He was expecting he was going to be on a team that stinks for the next 3 years. I think that needs to be, and I think the Nets should trade everyone, and that includes Curry, that includes Simmons, that includes, and then Kyrie, and recover your lost picks, and just be a bad team for 3 years with young up and coming talent. And I think
they don't have
not doing it. But that's what Matt's saying. He's get the picks back. But Matt, you're not talking about blowing it up. You're talking about dropping the atom bomb on it. You're talking about like decimating the team. You just start from scratch, and Ben Simmons looks like Will Smith.
Ben Simmons is not going to try if he's on a bad team, so you got to get rid of him.
Well, which is why you have incentive to build around him. I think you can't stink because you don't have your own picks. There's no reason to stink if you don't have your own picks because you need another team to stink for you for if you're trading for picks. Unless you could trade into the Rockets, give Jalen Green a whole bunch of picks.
I actually think it's actually a little bit better when you have other teams' picks in this sense because you have picks, but they're not dependent on how you play. So you don't have to worry about, oh no, we went 30 and 52. We were a little too good this year. And you can
But at least you can control that. If you're hoping that another team is bad and all of a sudden they go, what you going to do? Call that GM and say, hey, guy, we got your pick. Like, we didn't think you were going to be this good. You mind stinking it up a little bit for us so we can get in the lottery? Like, at least I can control that. Or like it's under my watch. You can't really control it if your players want to go out and play, but you know what I mean.
This is Dynasty Fantasy Basketball 101. You need your own picks to stink because then there's no point in
That's
stinking.
Where it's coming from. That's
how I know.
Really, before we move on, the last thing before we move on, what I was thinking as to why the KD trade hasn't happened yet and all the reasons why. And why Sean Marks and the Brooklyn Nets continue to strike down trade offers. And you guys covered it in your off-season video, your off-season trades video too. Rudy Gobert got the farm. I mean, got the farm, got the house, got the tractor, got custody of the kids. Rudy Gobert demanded everything. And if I'm Sean Marks and he got 2-3 players and 4 first-round picks, what can I get for Kevin Durant? Like, if that's what teams are willing to give for Rudy Gobert, for a guy who's at the butt of a lot of jokes? What about a top 3 player in the league? Because you hear guys like Woj and Sham say how the market is still forming, it's still taking shape for KD. And I think that has something to do with it. Like, I got to watch this, how other players are getting traded. And no, Jake, it don't make, I see you shaking your head. It don't make sense. There's no reason to it. But if I'm Sean Marks, it don't got to make sense, man. Like, I up the ante.
As a society, we had moved past the need for Rudy Gobert. I thought we were entering an era of NBA basketball where the center can do everything. Everything is switchable. Rudy Gobert is a joke. These are things that we all know to be true. So why is Rudy Gobert getting 5-6 picks traded for him and 2 players? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to a team that already has a center who some would call a top 5 center.
Well, I blame Cat. I'm not a lot of people are going to blame Cat. I blame Cat for wanting to be a guard. You are 7 feet tall. You should not desire to be one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. That shouldn't be your desire. You shouldn't want to operate on the perimeter. If you don't get your 7 foot behind on the block and go dunk on, I wish I was the GM when Cat came in the office and said, "Hey, you know who we should trade for? You know who we should give a go?
That's like,
how about Rudy Gobert?
Right.
I'm gonna trade you for saying that. I'm gonna trade you for saying that.
You're gonna have Cat having to play perimeter defense a lot.
Better than post defense.
I know,
but that's why he wants Gobert. That's exactly why he wants, because defense in general. Cat don't want to have to worry about.
But if you're 7 foot and big, you can just put your arms up on post defense and be passable.
You would think. But Cat wants to be a 6'4" guard so bad it's painful. But I do think that market for Rudy Gobert, that demand for Rudy Gobert, has made Sean Marks go back to the drawing board a little bit and be like, hey, we might be able to reevaluate what we're asking for if teams are being that dumb this summer. If teams are just throwing out stuff this summer, let's see what we can get.